Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the word Spot and Media. A new 45-day amnesty for persons with outstanding traffic tickets gets underway today. Details from TVJ's O'Shane Masters.
With tickets issued from September 1, 2010 to October 31 this year can pay them without repercussion up to January 13, 2018. On Friday, the Senate approved the legislation which facilitates the new period of amnesty.
It will facilitate the suspension of the relevant sections of the Judicature Parish Courts Act and the Justice of the Peace Jurisdiction Act, thereby preventing the issuance of warrants by a parish court judge or a justice of the peace for the arrest of traffic ticket holders. And motorists holding unpaid traffic tickets would be offered, Mr. President, an amnesty in relation to penalty points being recorded against their driver's license.
Senator Pernell Charles Jr. noted that during the amnesty, motorists will, however, not be denied the opportunity to contest their tickets in court.
We're not condoning lawlessness, but we acknowledge that the delinquency of motorists to pay the amounts owed is also a problem of inefficient collection and enforcement. By failing to collect, we perpetuate a vicious cycle as we are unable to make the necessary upgrades and buy the required equipment and technology to provide the proper support for the JCF, the Transport Ministry, the Ministry of National Security and the court.
But Opposition Senator Lambert Brown had a range of issues with the ticket amnesty.
What has been the impact on the court system? Because we're told success will be reducing the backlog in court. Where's the numbers that tell us that we have succeeded there? Except we do a PR thing, say, oh, it was successful. So we go on the radio and say, oh, it was successful. Let's tell the people the truth. It was a failure. Mr. President, the leader of opposition business has already dealt with clause 4.2b about the demerit points. We said the last time, and we repeat it for you. Those who played by the rule got shafted. How can it be that you're giving people who break the rules a reprieve on demerit points, but you're not doing it for everybody? I recommend to you, remove the demerit points for all, including the law obedience.
The bill was passed in the lower house on November 14. The previous amnesty from August 2 to October 31 resulted in payments of over $590 million from the processing of more than 260,000 tickets. At the end of last year, outstanding traffic tickets totaled in excess of $2.84 billion.
Other aspects of the public sector and not just wages.
We have to look at opportunities for training and retraining on the job. We have to look at areas of better welfare for our workers. So there are a range of things that we'll be looking at. I have had discussions with the police. I intend to meet with the nurses and with teachers to see how we can do a lot of other things other than just the issue of the percentage salary increase.
Managing Director at the Housing Agency of Jamaica, Gary Howell, is refuting what he calls public perception that the HAJ is a loss-making entity. Speaking at a JIS think tank session, Mr. Howell says over a 7-year period, the company made profits in 4 of those years. entity. Speaking at a JIS think tank session, Mr. Howell says over a 7-year period, the company made profits in 4 of those years.
We have been contributing a significant part to regularizing informal communities and assisting persons to become, as we would say, legal citizens, because persons sometimes have been living in a parcel of land for 20, 25 years and would love to have been able to have the right to pass it on to their family members, but doesn't have security of tenure. And it's government lands, and so we would assist if those lands fall within our portfolio.
Are a contributing factor to the company's losses.
One of the challenges the agency faced, however, is that when we do a development and you make profit, you have to use these profits to subsidize some of these informal communities. So some person might not be aware of that and thinks that boy, all of the operation is just purely a loss-making thing without going behind to see the real reason why. It's because we have to do with these informal communities.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government will be providing more housing solutions for Jamaicans. He was addressing the Jamaica Labour Party's 74th annual conference at the National Arena yesterday.
1,500 housing starts will be completed in this fiscal year by the NHT. That is more house than the previous administration did in their last 3 years.
He says it will help to reduce the country's squatting problem.
These are going to be mostly affordable housing solutions. So when it comes to house, I am the builder for house in Jamaica. Me not talking theory about house. Me not appointing a commission to study squatting. Me not read about it in a book. Me born and grow it and understand it.
The St. Anne police are trying to figure out why a police corporal took his life Sunday night. Corporal Huey Green was found dead at his home in Exchange, Ocherius. Reports are that his neighbor heard a shot coming from his house and called the police. A firearm was found along with a note. Corporal Green, who was stationed at the Claremont Police Station in St. Anne, was in a motor vehicle accident 2 weeks ago and was hospitalized. He was at home recuperating. Call primary. TVJ's Krista Campbell has details.
With 1 year to go before the delayed implementation of the Primary Exit Profile PEP, which will replace the Grade 6 Achievement Test GSAT, Education Minister Ruel Reid says the government is holding consultations with all stakeholders to explain how the new exam will work. Mr. Reid says part of preparing to implement the new exam includes the supply of adequate materials to primary schools, including sample tests.
The primary exit profile, which will take over now from GSAT, is no longer a one-sitting exam. It's not an exam which will only based on multiple choice. So nothing to fear. And we eventually will begin our assessment from grade 4 and culminate in grade 6.
The exam is being done in tandem with the newly launched National Standards curriculum, which is intended to prepare students to sit the PEP exam in March 2019. The Education Minister says students will be assessed to see how well they are responding to the new curriculum. But in the meantime, he stressed the importance of structural improvements to aid in the development process. In that vein, he commended the initiative of Pembroke Hall Primary School in raising its own funds to construct and open a resource room and 3 new classrooms. At the recent official opening, Principal Norma McNeil explained the value of the partnerships from
have issued the highest level warning possible after volcanic eruptions in Indonesia forced the closure of the island's main airport and the evacuation of thousands of residents. More from the CNN.
Itself for a few weeks here. As you mentioned, 25,000 people still in shelters as a result of the volcano here. Mount Agung in Indonesia had been dormant since 1963. It has not been in the last few weeks. In fact, 2 eruptions in the last week. The latest one, very strong, goes all the way up to 13,000 feet, which of course is where planes fly, which is why we've had disruption in travel. We've had cancellations. We've had diversions. We've had upwards of 2,000 people at the airport there stranded and waiting for help. The reason the airplanes can't fly through this, we can fly through a lot of things, right? But ash in particular is very dangerous to aircraft because as that plume goes up, it has basically volcanic ash, and it also has components that can clog up the area here, and that can result in some significant problems with the engine. The magma cools, and then it cakes on the problems. And sometimes you can't see the plume of smoke. The particulates are so small that the radar on the aircraft can't even pick it up. So we'll watch this closely. The radar depicting some shower and thunderstorm activity. That will likely cause problems right at the surface as the ash comes down. In fact, we have reports that ash is falling as far away as the island just to the east. So we'll see if we get the big eruption, but for now, we'll continue to monitor the airspace there, which remains quite dangerous.
And protesters in Pakistan are dispersing after the country's law minister resigned under pressure following weekend clashes that killed 2 people. For weeks, protesters have been demanding his resignation because they claim that change in the wording of the oath of office weakened rules requiring lawmakers to reference the Prophet Muhammad.
These protesters have been out on the streets of Islamabad, of the capital, for 2 weeks, completely shutting down traffic, causing economic losses, and having a major breakdown contact between the twin cities of Rawalpindi and Islamabad. Now, there has been a sort of, a dialogue. There was an attempt to make a dialogue between the government and the protesters, because blasphemy laws themselves are a very sensitive issue in the country, bringing out vigilante justice, but these have not come to much. The 23rd of November was a deadline, and early this morning you saw police and Frontier Corps, which are the paramilitary, just come in and shoot rubber bullets into the crowds, into the protesters, and as well as tear gas. Now, what we were hearing, what we were seeing on local media, and what we were seeing on the ground as well, is that the police were actually being pushed back. We've had numbers of over 100 people being injured, including civilians and police and Frontier Corps.
And in sports, Humble Lion and Reno played out a 1-1 draw at Effortville as the Red Stripe Premier League began the second round on Sunday. Fancy Hugh Stewart put the visitors ahead in the first half stoppage time with his second straight goal. But Corey Hilton responded for Humble Lion in the 66th minute to earn the home side a share of the points. Humble Lion ended the day with 10 men as Woolry Wolf was red-carded in the 80th minute for dangerous play.
Definitely another rough game. We gave up a soft goal at the end of the first half, Hence we have to be fighting hard to get back a goal. We got it back in the latter part of the game, and we lost a man in a red card decision by the referee. But I think we showed some character today. We work hard. I'm disappointed that we didn't get all 3 points, but such is the game. We just have to continue, relent, and try and get this thing right,
We dominate first half, no problem. But domination don't always guarantee the scoreboard. And I think we missed way too many chances to come out of the game.
And that's the midday news. And remember to join us at 7 for the primetime news package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.